Is there an opportunity that you and Alex Jones maybe make a new episode together, just like 25 years ago when I was waking up, of 20 years ago? What do you think?
Well, coming together. Yeah, of course, there's that opportunity. It's kind of ironic because I said at the turn of this year that this would be the year of the alien in terms of um, government disclosure. And the reason I said that, or one of the reasons, a big reason, is because I saw that the Steven Spielberg movie
Mm,
coming out.
mm.
I think it's released in America on June the 12th.
Disclosure day.
Disclosure Day, right. Now, there's a guy in America, he's a pastor, and he's gone public saying that a group of pastors were brought together um, basically in a governmental situation and told to prepare your people, your congregations.
David Icke is de wereldster en de referentie voor onderzoek naar wat er achter de schermen gebeurt. We hebben hem ook 2 maanden geleden mogen ontmoeten, live, diepzinnige gesprekken gehad en ook hij is erachter gekomen dat wat hier op aarde gemanifesteerd wordt en bestuurd wordt en hoe dat we met z'n allen in de matrix zitten, dat het eigenlijk gestuurd wordt vanuit de astrale gebieden. Met als doel lush of lush te oogsten. Hij heeft dan ook het werk van Bob Moreau ontdekt. Bob Moreau die als eerste die lush-oogst beschreef. En programma's heeft ontwikkeld zodat hij zelf ook vanuit het verruimd bewustzijn kan ervaren en er zelf kan achterkomen wat dat er eigenlijk aan de hand is. Heb je daarin interesse? Dat is nu net wat Focus 34 doet. Wij zijn de enige die in België en Nederland de programma's van het Moreau Instituut geeft. Wil je eens kennis maken? Dan kan je eens een online remote viewing workshop doen. Wil je al iets dieper en op een gestructureerde manier de bewustzijnlevels verkennen, dan is misschien de Excursion Workshop, Exploring Consciousness Workshop iets voor jou. In ieder geval, ik zie je graag op een van onze workshops. Je vindt alle informatie op focus34.com.
Fit, it's truly an honor to have you here in the show, man. In 2010, you opened my eyes with this book, Human Race, Get Off Your Knees, The Lion Sleeps No More. So first of all, thank you for that. You was the first one who opened my eyes, and we are now 15 years later. The media has exploded. A lot of influencers are coming, and people starting, asking questions about this reality. So from your perspective in those 15 years, last 15 years, how do you see the changes that are happened?
Well, last 15 years, I've been doing this now for 36 years. And when I look back at 1990 and the years that followed through the 1990s, it was dramatically different to how it is now. You were trying to push over a wall, symbolically, which didn't want to fall. And there was very little interest in this in those years. When you talked about some of the, well, I say far out, they're not really far out, they're just far out from our perception of normal. But when you talked about some of these things, what you got was mass ridicule and dismissal and abuse. But if what you say has validity, it will eventually be shown to be so. And it may not happen quickly. It didn't. But eventually, if what you're saying has validity, events will unfold to show that what you were saying turned out to be true. So that's what has happened. Over the years, more and more things have come to light across the great spectrum of things that I talk about, not just the political agenda, and they're all connected. All of them are connected. Not just the political agenda and the societal agenda, but as you say, questions about reality itself. And the more that you appreciate what reality is, or at least what we know of it so far, the more staggering the level of deceit becomes, because we are experiencing a reality that is nothing like we think we're experiencing and we appear to be experiencing in our everyday life. So it shows how far we have come, that tremendous numbers of people now, compared with when I started out, are willing to look at the world on so many different levels in a different way than they did before. And that makes the job of people like me easier, in the sense that people are more likely to give you a hearing. But what I've also seen is the effort to misdirect people into like a cul-de-sac of perception, in which they are told to believe that, yes, there is a conspiracy, but the conspiracy is just political and financial and all that sort of level. And that is like building a barricade around that that arena that we can see and touch and see on the news, to misdirect people from the true level of the conspiracy, because there is a political conspiracy, there is a financial conspiracy, and so on. But that's not the origin of it all. That's the play out level. That's the level at which we see it, or don't. But the real level of the conspiracy, in terms of human deceit, is that the very reality that we're experiencing is not what we're experiencing.
I've seen it. Could this moment also be an opportunity for people like Alex Jones, Kenneth Owens, who now seeing that black and white doesn't work, left and right doesn't work? Is it possible to come together now in this way? They have seen now Trump is doing strange things everywhere. Is there an opportunity that you and Alex Jones maybe make a new episode together, just like 25 years ago when I was waking up, of 20 years ago? What do you think?
Well, coming together, yeah, of course there's that opportunity, but I was calling Trump out in 2016 when he first came on the political scene. I was calling him out as a gopher, an asset of this, quote, deep state that people talk about, and that he was owned by Israel. And that whole aspect of manipulation. And I watched Alex in 2016 pushing this guy, Donald Trump, telling people to vote for him, that he was going to be some kind of savior. I saw people like Candace Owens, who started off on the left in politics, didn't work for her, so she suddenly became a Trump supporter. I mean, that's quite a leap, isn't it? From so-called progressive, as it's perceived politically, to supporting Trump. I watched Tucker Carlson when he was on Fox, and then he came into the alternative media after the whole COVID story broke, the COVID hoax broke, a little bit after that, actually. And I saw the communications he made within the Fox News arena, which came out during this Dominion suit against Fox for claiming that the voting machines were rigged in the second Trump election, which he lost to Biden. And I saw the communications in which Tucker Carlson was saying, basically, I hate Trump and despise Trump, and it's great now that I won't be able to talk about him every night on Fox when he was still there. And then I saw the same Tucker Carlson, along with people like Russell Brand and Joe Rogan, Megyn Kelly, jump on the Trump bandwagon and promote him to power, along with, again, Alex Jones, along with, again, Candace Owens and many others, another guy called Ian Carroll. And the evidence of what Trump was there. But it didn't seem to register.
They didn't see it. I think they're good people, but they didn't see it. They had false hope.
The point is this. All the way through 2024, during that election campaign, I was calling out at Trump, saying he was a con man, saying he wouldn't be doing what he claims to be doing. He's just telling you what you want to hear. And when he gets into office, it won't be like that at all. And I just got abuse and dismissal again. And then, in the months that followed Trump's election the second time, when it was blatantly obvious to anyone paying attention what this guy was and who he was owned by, we suddenly had this, oh my God, are we going to turn against Trump now? Because look at what he's doing. And so when you say, can we come together? Yeah, I'm all for coming together. But there's two things. First of all, I vehemently question the judgment of these people. And secondly, I must question also the motivation. Because, if you care about what you're saying and you've properly researched it, then there's no deviation in the fundamentals of what you're saying. I'm obviously would question those that are jumping and leaping between positions that are like the opposite of what they said before. What's the motivation there? And there's definitely, with some of them, the motivation of what's best for me at the time. Because there was a Trump bandwagon during 2024. And in the alternative media, as I know from my own experience of challenging it, that if you went for the bandwagon and you jumped on it, like all these people did, then you were flavor of the month. Mm-hmm. But if you stood by your principles, no, can see what this guy is. I've seen it since 2016. And I'm going to keep saying what I've researched to be true, then you get anything but support and abuse and benefit. So, first of all, I've got to see that these people are genuine, because when I see them leaping from one view to another, which is the kind of opposite of this one, I'm thinking, why is that? And the other thing, interestingly, is that the same people, overwhelmingly, not every last one, but the same people who came basically out of the into the Trump arena and took over the alternative media. My question is, and my point is that they were also the same people that were either massively supportive of Israel and people like Netanyahu, or stayed silent about the manipulation they were blatantly involved in year after year, decade after decade. And then suddenly the same people who turned against Trump then turn against Israel. And this jumping around of perception over this from one opposite to the other one, obviously will make people say, what's going on here? And there's one other point I would make. And that's a point I strongly make in my my new book, The Roadmap. Yeah, that's the central influence of the control system, or the central part played in the control system by religion.
That's a good one.
Religion, I don't care which one you're talking about, really. They all basically work the same, but the major ones to a greater extreme. I'm talking about your Christianity and your Islam and your Judaism and your Hinduism, etc. They are a fundamental part of the control system and have been way back. Now, all these people we're talking about, like Alex Jones, like Candace Owens, like Tucker Carlson, and on, they are limited in their perception of reality by their religious belief. Because what is a religious belief? What is any belief? This is the whole point. If you're going to research what's going on in the world, first of all, you have to realize, with some humility at the start, how much you don't know.
Sure.
And you have to not filter information through the filter of your belief system. Because if you do, A, you'll make it fit your belief system, and B, you won't go into areas which would demolish your belief system. And in that way, any rigid, unquestioning belief system is a mind prison. That's why they're created. You see, when there's a relative few, and compared with 8 billion, it's a relative few, who are manipulating the vast hordes, mathematically that should be impossible. How can a few control vast numbers? Well, it can if it does two things. Fundamentally two things, lots of other things, but this is a foundation. You have to get your target population broken down into rigid belief systems that are not to be questioned. Now, these are the religious belief systems. Currently, we have Judaism and Christianity played off against Islam in this Iran war in so many ways. And you have a religious belief system, but not only that, you have a political belief system. You have a left ideology, you have a right ideology, you might even have a center ideology, but it's an ideology.
New Age.
Well, these are all belief systems, all of them.
I think New Age is the hardest one.
Yeah, well, we can get into that.
Yes.
I would like to talk about that, but the point is, you have left belief system played off against right belief system. You have Islam belief system played off against Christian belief system, and because belief systems are not like an entity, like a religion or a political belief. They are a mentality. You see other belief systems that appear to contradict others that actually operate in the same way and with the same structure as those they think they're opposing. You've got mainstream orthodox science that dismisses religion. Overwhelming. Okay, so how does orthodox science work? Exactly the same way. You have the holy books. They are the holy books of scientific orthodoxy. If you step out of the orthodoxy as a scientist, you are a pseudoscientist, or you are dabbling in the paranormal or whatever. In the same way, if you're in a religion and you go beyond the religious story, whatever it is, then you are a blasphemer, or you're an infidel, or you're dabbling in the occult, a word that just means hidden. And surely we should be trying to bring to the surface the hidden. But if you notice the common theme there, Dino, science says, orthodox science says, here and no further, don't go there. Religion says, here and no further, don't go there. And to a large extent, political belief systems say, here and no further, don't go there. And thus, where the hidden and the greater understanding, the greater perception of reality, of self, exist beyond these belief systems, you're told by all of them not to go there. And what basically it does, if you have this rigid, unquestioning belief system, whatever it is, you got a prison cell over your mind, here and no further.
For sure.
And what that does finally is it creates the perfect environment for the absolute bottom line key of the few controlling the many, which is divide and rule. So you've got all these belief systems to play off against each other.
Even within the conspiracy world, we have belief system. Someone believes in flat Earth, and the one who only believes in flat Earth, they don't want to talk about aliens or the stars or universe. But you have that also, and I have I know nice things in the religion books. Of course, there are nice things, but when I talk about your stuff, about deep forces that are here, what I believe are reptilians, they telling me, you're telling a science fiction story. And I tell them, look, if you read the Bible or other books, it's also science fiction. For me, it's science fiction if a man can walk on water. It's also science fiction. So what's the difference, you know? And they think I'm talking crazy to say, but in their own books is also a lot of stuff that is not natural what we see here. So
well, that's an interesting point. It's a very, very, very valid point. People tend not to demand evidence for their own belief system as they demand evidence for everyone else's. And that's something everyone has to watch, because it's a very, very common trait. And you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a reason that religious people are told to have faith. Have faith. You must have faith. Well, what is faith? Faith is believing something in the absence of evidence. That doesn't mean you can't look at the evidence and stuff you research and it's pointing in a certain direction. That's okay, fine. But what religions are doing, and I look at some of this. There are 28 chapters in the roadmap. About 5 of them are different aspects of religion and looking at where religion came from. All of them, not just one. And the basis on which the stories emerged is, well, it's laughable, really. I mean, the idea that, we should believe in Moses and the Exodus from Egypt, well, there's absolutely no evidence for that whatsoever. I mean, you had historical records of that whole Egyptian period that never mention these fantastic happenings. We are told in the Bible that something like, well, it's been estimated at 2 million, like it said 600,000 men were in the Exodus from Egypt rather. So you add the children and you add the women, you add the animals. They said all the animals came out with them. And you're looking at, it's estimated, at least 2 million people. And they're supposed to have escaped from Pharaoh troops in their chariots overnight. The Red Sea was supposed to have been turned back and held back.
Split in 2 ways with the Ark of the Covenant, I think was that.
My question is, what happened to the sand? Was it still soggy or what?
I have, yeah, of course.
And then they walk around a desert, and I've been on one occasion to Israel, but they wouldn't let me in now. And it's a very small area.
In Holland also.
It's a very small area, and they're supposed to have gone around this relatively small desert for 40 bloody years. Now, in the roadmap, I quote Jewish archaeologists and their efforts to prove the biblical stories to have validity, and they found that there wasn't any. And there's no evidence whatsoever that any of that took place. You had the trumpets that brought down the walls of Jericho. Well, Jericho, it turns out, didn't have walls. It was not a walled city in that period they're talking about. So on and on and on it goes. And you go into the New Testament and the same thing unfolds. And if people want to believe it, I don't have a problem with that. Believe what you like. It's your choice. I mean, none of my business. But what I'm saying is the consequences of belief without evidence and to dismiss going into look for evidence because it would challenge your belief, that has consequences. And fundamental in those consequences are that it gives the few the ability to control the many.
Yes. And David, even today, many people who consider themselves awake still struggle with the idea that there are hidden forces behind the scenes controlling this reality. They have a lot of problems with this. I call them extraterrestrials. You are speaking for 30 years about these reptilian forces. And We have in Pentagon now, they are disclosing something, and they are really talking from high level about possible contact with these beings, possible reverse engineering programs with these beings, and also some things that these beings are doing to the humanity through the military cabal from secret space programs and secret government programs. And these guys, who I have researched, are documented guys who also are talking about reptilians. Also, it's for them is that nothing strange, because they have been 40, 50 years in these programs, just like a guy like William Tompkins, who is in his, he was, I think, 85 years old or something. And
I think
before his death,
he's around 90 even.
Yes, and he's talking about it. If it was normal people, yeah, reptilians, of course they exist, you know. So now you see the Pentagon also disclosing more and more. So all these things that you have talked about for 30 years must be validated on some level, even by the people who don't believe this thing.
Yeah,
I think.
it's kind of ironic because I said at the turn of this year that this would be the year of the alien in terms of government disclosure. And the reason I said that, or one of the reasons, a big reason, is because I saw that the Steven Spielberg movie coming out. I think it's released in America on June the 12th.
Disclosure Day.
Disclosure Day, right. Now, when I have looked at the movie making career of a number of movie makers, I'm seeing a pattern, and I see a pattern with Spielberg, obviously with E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and all that stuff. Yes. And I could see, okay, I remember traveling around America in the 1990s, and I talked to a lot of whistleblowers, military whistleblowers, etc. And any suggestion that there were, I don't call them extraterrestrial, I call them interdimensional, because I say their origin is in another dimension of reality. Anyway, and it was dismissed. I mean, back in the 40s, you had the weather balloon story and all that stuff, and it was all dismissed. And oh, it's just a laugh. Oh, you're talking about little green men and all this stuff.
Yeah, Roswell incident and that sort of things.
And then,
you mean that?
In the last like few years, I've started to see this drip, drip, drip of disclosure, military people coming out and you know, radar pictures of craft doing things that you wouldn't think were possible in the human reality, although the technology we see in the public arena is nothing like they have in the underground bases and the secret projects. So I was seeing this this emerging, we're going to take it more seriously. And I thought, okay, well, there's one thing you know about authority. It lies to you. One thing you know about governments, it lies to you. One thing you know about the military, it lies to you. Mm-hmm. So if they are releasing information, I'm not talking about whistleblower people from the military, etc., but I'm talking about the inner circle. They're not going to release information officially unless it suits them. So whatever they release this year, and we're seeing more and more evidence of politicians and other people coming out and saying that we're going to do it soon. Trump said soon, and all the Pentagon said soon. If they're going to release information to us, then it will be for their benefit, not ours. And so I'm just waiting to see what spin they put on it. before I conclude what is going on in that sense. But I don't know whether you saw this today. I posted something on this. There's a guy in America. He's a pastor, and he's gone public saying that a group of pastors were brought together, basically in a governmental situation, and told to prepare your people, your congregations, for the revelations that were coming about craft that were not human in origin, and reptilian beings, reptilian creatures. Right? Now, the irony, as I mentioned, is that I've been exposing this since the mid 1990s, and got so much abuse and ridicule for it. Oh, you're mad, you are. He says lizards run the world and all this stuff. But I should be, you would think, going, yeah, see, told you. Well, what I'm saying is, let's be streetwise here.
But we know that you told it. We know it.
Yeah,
I know it.
But whatever they tell us will be for their benefit, not ours. And
of course,
the picture is vastly, vastly greater than they'll be revealing. And this is the point. I think you indicated it a few minutes ago, that, you know, I've talked over the decades to many, many military whistleblowers, particularly in America. And they've described how they've interacted with reptilian beings and other beings like the so-called greys, etc.
Insectoids.
Yeah, there seems to be many different types.
Races, yes.
In underground bases, what they call DUMBs, deep underground military bases. And so if they kind of spin this as, it's a mystery, we've got this evidence, but we don't know what's going on, well, they bloody well do. That's the point. They've not only been aware of this manipulation, they've worked with these non-human entities in this manipulation, because this is the way I see it. I'm trying to get rid of her hair. I think he's gone now.
No problem, David.
So this is the way I see it. There's another dimension interacts with this one. You know, people look up to the sky when they're talking about heaven. It's not a chest of drawers. It's different frequencies sharing the same space. And so this other dimension shares the same space as this one. But of course, like radio and television stations, they share the same space without interfering with each other unless they are very close on the dial. So you have this other dimensional level, which is where this manipulation is originating from. And it comes from a particular state of consciousness, which goes under names across the religions and the cultural belief systems as Satan or the devil, or in Islam it's Shaitan or Iblis. In the Gnostic belief system, it's the demiurge or the Yoda Baoth.
Religious people believe that. They believe that, but this they don't believe.
Yeah, because there's a belief system which has very strict limits. And if you go beyond them, then you're no longer whatever your belief system is. And what goes with explanations that have some parallels with some religious belief systems, what goes with that is a vast, vast expansion of perception of reality and self. And so you have this instant dismissal, even of those elements of what you're saying that have religious parallels, because if you accept that this is true that someone's saying, then what about all this other stuff that actually demolishes the religion? So they seek to just throw the everything out, even that bit that has parallels with what they believe. So you have, but the thing is that I've talked to shamans and carriers of ancient knowledge in different parts of the world, and what I'm looking for when I'm researching is patterns of agreement between belief systems that would otherwise not agree on lots of things. It's the areas, the patterns of agreement that I'm looking for. And there is a pattern of agreement between religions and native peoples and cultural beliefs, that there is a hidden force that's manipulating human society. And this consciousness that the Gnostics call Yaldabaoth expresses itself in entities in this, what's called this astral dimension, which the Gnostic belief system calls archons, which is Greek for rulers, and Christians call demons. Islamic belief systems call jinn, and like I say, the Gnostics call archons. And this other dimensional force is the origin of human control. And then within the frequency band, because that's what it is, of human reality, this material density, you have a global network of secret societies, which I call the global cult in totality, that is manipulating human society on behalf of that other dimensional force. This is why in the early 1990s, when I was uncovering this cult and how it worked, I realized that these major players and not so major players were involved in Satanism and, pedophilia as well. The two are connected, but Satanism, and they were doing satanic rituals, including human sacrifice rituals. And then you think, hold on, the ancients were doing human sacrifice rituals to
as Baal.
to the god.
You are this god. Yes, it's very strange. And this Anunnaki thing also have maybe also some connection why they doing experiments with our DNA from 1,000 years ago, and they still doing these things. If you look at the abduction programs and hybridization programs, where even Pentagon is talking about now, that's very bizarre.
Yeah, but see, this is the point. You have a level of awareness. You call it intelligence. We can argue about what intelligence means, but its knowledge base in this other dimension is far greater than humans, and therefore it's been able to do things within human reality that humans perceive as impossible. Still do. They can't do that. That's impossible. No. It's impossible with the way you see the world, but it's not actually impossible. Because they're doing it for a start. And you also look around the ancient world, and you see pantheons of gods, like you had the Greek pantheon and the Egyptian pantheon and the Roman pantheon, but you have pantheons of gods everywhere in Hinduism, for instance, they still have vast numbers of gods, which they worship. But that those gods are these entities operating in the astral dimension, and their rituals and satanic rituals are interacting with these gods. That's we can get into what they're doing and how they give these gifts to the gods of a human sacrifice, and what's actually the reason for that. But you have this knowledge base of which is very much more advanced than human, because the idea is that you keep from humans the knowledge that you have, because if I know what you know, then it's very difficult to manipulate you.
Of course. David, talking about another dimensions, I don't know if you are familiar with Dr. Rick Strassman from the documentary Spirit Molecule. Do you know him?
Yeah, I've come across that.
It was on YouTube. I have a rare interview. I can put it in the description. It's a very rare interview with him, I think 20 years ago. And what was happened, David, is very interesting what you're now talking about. In the 90s, he conducted a government-funded research where volunteers were given high doses of DMT in a clinical way, in a hospital, next to a cancer room. So they didn't do it on the right way, and they were given high doses with injection. So they didn't just like you and me on a ritualistic way with shamans. They did it in a clinical way. So what happened, David? These people don't know nothing about other dimensions, didn't know nothing about it. They want to see how it is, to see these worlds, these hidden realities. And what he's telling, and I'm put it in the description, the link, he's telling that 30% of these volunteers came back, and they say they landed in another experiment in another dimension with insectoid beings and reptilian-like beings. They call them crocodile people.
Yeah.
So these people didn't know anything about reptilians or something. And what they also they were ashamed to tell what was happening because some of them were raped by these beings, and they did very, very bad sexual things to them, and they were experimenting them to find something special about us. So this woman asked Dr. Strassman, what's so special about us that they want to research? And his conclusion was, and he don't want to talk a lot about this stuff. He's a little bit scared. He's not just like you telling everything. He don't want to talk a lot about it, but what he told is, his conclusion was that we have something they don't have. They can be intelligence, but we have some things, and it is or emotions that they don't have and can't understand, and they want that. What do you think about this?
Well, we have consciousness beyond this reality, which is actually a simulated virtual reality, which has been created to control us by these entities and the consciousness that drives them. So you're dealing with entities that are very advanced, not least technologically. And the idea is to suppress human knowledge so that we don't know what they know. So we have two worlds. We have the world of this global cult within human society. And what that does is pass over through the generations very advanced knowledge about the nature of reality and the nature of the agenda for humanity, but not throughout the cult levels of secret society and degrees, but through the inner circle. The cult itself is fiercely compartmentalized, so most people don't know the big picture. Now, what you then find if you do the research is that these cultists, not least like the Rockefellers in America and the Rothschilds and others, created also the sources of communication from which the population gets its information. So it created, like the Rockefellers did in America, the education system, which is a programming system. It created and owns the global media. So it owns Silicon Valley and the platforms of social media. And the role of all that is to keep the population, the target population, in ignorance of what they know. And so you have this situation where there's an ongoing dramatic difference between what the inner circle cultists know and what the population they're targeting know.
Mhm.
And so what people like me and you are doing is researching what they know and don't want us to know, and saying to the people, this is what they're doing and this is how they're doing it. And what you find, it goes back to what we were talking about at the start. What you find is because of the limit of the sense of the possible of the population due to this manipulation, they just laugh at you and say that's ridiculous, that's impossible. I remember a great quote from a German philosopher called Arthur Schopenhauer, which says basically every man judges basically the limit of possibility by the limits of his own mind. And that's what they want us to want us to believe, that the limits of what we perceive as possible is the limit of possibility. It ain't. And
Mhm.
so
True.
what you have therefore is a dramatic difference between the knowledge that the inner circle of the cult knows and the knowledge that the population knows. And what we call awakening is awakening to and having the self-respect to realize that whatever we know or think we know, there's always more to know. That continually keeps your mind open to all possibility. Don't mean you believe everything, but you'll give it a chance. So that's why, because we have been through this process, I've watched it unfold for 36 years, slowly, very slowly at first, and then faster and faster, is that people are expanding, if you like, their sense of possibility. And as a result of that expansion, they are able to encompass concepts and explanations that they would have laughed at and dismissed with a wave of the hand before. And that's where belief systems, like religious belief systems, come in. Because
Mhm.
as you expand your sense of the possible, you are going into areas of the hidden. You're going into those areas that are systematically hidden from us. And if you go there, then your religious, political, cultural belief system starts to dismantle. The great thing is that more and more people are willing to go there now, and
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, and this brings me also to your new book, The Roadmap and the Way Out, David. I think I've not read it yet, but I think you're talking about the way out and the producers of this reality, and maybe the weavers of the spider's web. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. Could you maybe tell something about this book and the way out? I want to know what you have learned in 36 years. That's a good question.
Yeah, well, a lot. I mean, I've been doing it full time, so yeah, a lot. And I've traveled to 60 odd countries before they started banning me from lots of them. What I've done in the roadmap, and the reason I wrote the roadmap, is because I was seeing people, not least since COVID, when a lot of people thought there is some kind of conspiracy going on. I saw them seeing this conspiracy or that conspiracy. But what I do is connect them. What I wanted to do in the roadmap is connect the dots between apparently unconnected conspiracies, happenings, events, whatever, ancient and modern, and show that they actually all connect, and they all connect in the end to this other dimensional force. And so I go through the whole spectrum in the book of different levels of this, and show how that they all connect. But in the most basic form, there's a non-human force, let's put it that way, in this astral dimension, interpenetrating this one. And it's created a virtual reality simulation, a quote matrix. And the role of the matrix is to put consciousness into a state of experiencing something in a way that it seems to be experiencing it, but actually is nothing like that. And the key is the human body, in my view. And the bottom line of the control is to disconnect what I'll call mind, body, mind, from our true I, which is consciousness. Consciousness, which ultimately, if you expand more and more into it, goes beyond the matrix, goes beyond the frequency walls of this matrix. And at that point, once you breach that, you start to see things within this reality you didn't see before. The number of people that have said to me, who've gone through this awakening process, which is not as difficult as people kind of make out, they've said, why couldn't I see it before? It's so bloody obvious. Well, because you were in the matrix and of the matrix before. You were operating through a mind that was getting all its information from within the matrix, from the matrix sources, and therefore you had a certain perception of reality. But as you expanded your awareness by expanding your self-identity, we can come to that, you eventually breach the walls of this this matrix frequency prison, if you like, and you start tapping in to levels of perception that are outside the matrix, that are beyond the matrix. And at which point you start to tap into knowledge, insight, awareness that is not directly available within the matrix. And what happens then, of course, is you start saying things and doing things that are completely outside the sense of normal of those still within the matrix and of the matrix. And they call you mad, and they call you crazy, and they say, they give you abuse and ridicule. This is what it is. And that process of expansion of awareness and self-identity to tap into beyond the matrix levels of awareness. That's what we call awakening. Now, what's been happening, as I talked about earlier, is when we had the COVID hoax, a lot of people eventually started to wake up to the fact that the world was not like they thought it was, because the whole thing was so coordinated, it was ridiculous. And so if you're this cult and you're this other dimensional force, you're looking at that and you're going, okay, well, this old COVID thing was necessary because of all that it gave us, not least with the jab. Another story. But it's also woken a lot of people up to look at life differently. So we don't think it will be possible, once that initial awakening has happened, to put them all back in the bottle, to put the genie back in the bottle. So what we've got to do is we've got to create a situation where they go so far, but not far enough to breach the walls of the matrix and start to perceive what's really going on. So they would have said, okay, so where are these awakening people getting their information from? Well, it's not the mainstream media, because they now have contempt for it. So it's this alternative media. Okay, so we've got to put our people, not necessarily people who are in full knowledge of what they're doing. We've got to put our people into that alternative media, and we've got to hold the line. And so you had all these people, a lot of them came out of the mainstream into what was called the alternative media, which didn't exist when I started out. And their focus of attention has basically been religion and politics. That's the conspiracy, right? And so they've held the line in so many ways, not least through religious belief. And what it's done is stopped a lot of people continuing the process of awakening.
Because they are waiting for Jesus to help them.
Yeah. We don't need a savior, but if you need a savior, you become beholding and in worship of the savior and in awe of the savior. Okay,
become lazy.
If you want a savior, find yourself a bloody mirror. There it is.
Yeah,
reflecting back at you. So the point being that this matrix needs us to be focused on what I call body-mind perception, and not expand and tap into our real I, which is infinite awareness ultimately. And so one of the ways that they've done it, a fundamental way that they've done it, is by creating a human body that I call a biological computer. And it's interesting, we talk about biological and we perceive that to be natural, and anything technological we perceive to be human made, but we don't know that. How do we know that the biological is natural? Because to do so, we would have to have something that was without question natural to compare it with. We don't have that. And, in my research over the years, this cult does not perceive, this inner core does not perceive the biological as natural. It perceives it as an advanced form of technology. So we have this biological computer, and it's a program. Obviously, second by second by second, the body is constantly tweaking itself in response to environmental changes and whatever's happening. So when's the last time anyone remembers breathing? Only when they were out of breath. Otherwise, they just breathe and don't even think about it. It's not a conscious thing. It's a subconscious thing. That's the program. And what I'm saying is that also running through the biological computer are psychological programs, perceptual programs. You know, when you travel around the world, you might be in different cultures, you might be in different belief systems, whatever, different religious emphasis, doesn't matter. People in certain situations will react the same. One of the things that is a trait of what's called the reptilian brain, it's the reptilian part of the brain at the back of the brain, where in the Matrix they put the probe in to put people into the Matrix. That's where we get the fight or flight psychological response from to danger. You know, the reptilian brain, this is mainstream science, is constantly scanning the environment for threats to survival, not just physical survival, survival of a job, a relationship, paying the rent at the end of the month. It's all part of the survival mechanism. A lot of this constant background anxiety comes from the reptilian brain. I don't think that's an accident at all.
I have some of the same problems, by the way. I know that I have that also sometimes, but not in a big way. But I know it's in my brain. That sort of ritualistic, every time on the same time, do the same things.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. And it is very secular, very, very ritualistic. You'll notice that the more that people awaken, the less predictable they become, because what we can do if we awaken to consciousness, open our minds and let consciousness in, is that we override the program, we override the body program. And the point is that if we don't override the body program is running our lives. This is why people are so many people are so predictable. And so, secular and repetitive. It's because the program's running. And what you can do is sit quietly and just withdraw and observe the chatter going on in your head. You can do that. And, this background chatter that's constantly going on. You know, she said this to me and I said this to her, and if she said this, I'm going to say that, and all that stuff. It's going on all the time. And you can actually reach a point where you're observing that chatter. Now, what's the chatter? It's the program. What's observing the chatter? You are the real you, the truly infinite consciousness you. And the idea is to keep consciousness from overriding the program through maintaining this separation, so we're not influenced by our true I, and we're controlled by the if you like, the biological computer I. And what the human body is also doing, and the human brain, is it's decoding the matrix. You know when you look at quantum physics, and they're pointing out that the observer creates reality.
That's the key, definitely.
Yeah, the observer change in quantum physics changes the potentiality of the waveform into the actuality of a particle, and that's due to observation. Well,
quantum entanglement or something.
The whole thing works like that, and so the observer is creating reality. This is creating reality, and it does it like this. And again, this is mainstream science. The The matrix is a series of electromagnetic fields carrying information. And we have now, because the way we experience reality and how reality works is being mirrored by the technological society that's emerging. That is a technological expression of the reality we're experiencing.
They're building a new matrix.
Yeah, but it's like you put the headset on. The headset is the body. You put a few relevant words into a video platform relating to compilations of people wearing a virtual reality headset. And what you see is someone putting the headset on, and even more so with the more sophisticated ones with the gloves and the audio and all that stuff. And immediately you see their sense of reality completely overwhelmed and transformed. They
Of
are
course, yeah.
suddenly that they're in a room. They might be quite aware of the room. It might be a room at home or whatever they're comfortable in, but they put the headset on and now they're screaming, they're running, they're falling over, because their sense of reality has been completely overtaken. Okay, now what you can do with a headset is do that. And you go, oh, it's just a game. Now, imagine this is the headset, the decoder of the matrix information fields. And when it's formed in the womb, it starts to decode the matrix like a headset. And you go through your entire life from womb to tomb with the headset, the human body brain, delivering to you a version of the matrix that we think is reality. And then at the end of a human life, what is death? Death is when the biological computer ceases to decode the matrix because it ceases to function. And at that point, consciousness, you see this in the, God knows how many examples there are of near-death accounts now, where the human body has ceased to function and then been brought back to life, and they talk about what happened in between, where people find themselves in a completely different reality, in another energetic state, a completely different reality, nothing like this one. And that's because at what we call death, the body has ceased to function. It's ceased to decode the matrix. When you look at the headset and the gloves and the audio and virtual reality games, what are they doing? They're hacking into the five senses. They're hacking into the way actually that we experience and decode reality. They're overriding what we would normally decode, and presenting us with this virtual reality of the technological kind. But the human body and the five senses are doing that all the time when we haven't got a headset on, because they are decoding the matrix and
integrated in our body.
Again, we have a wonderful, not just analogy, it's very, very accurate symbolism of how this works with Wi-Fi. We have Wi-Fi fields bloody everywhere now. And what is that? That's the internet. The vastness of the internet information encoded into a radiation field that we can't see. Because the amount we can see through the biological computer from a visual point of view is so tiny, it's ridiculous. We can hardly see anything. But anyway, so the body is the computer that's in front of me now, because if there was Wi-Fi in this room, there's not, but if there was, this computer would log into it and it would put onto the screen that part of the internet information field that I have chosen to access, and it would put it onto the screen in a vastly different way than that information exists in the Wi-Fi field. And we're doing exactly the same. The matrix is this equivalent of a Wi-Fi field, cosmic Wi-Fi, you might call it, and it carries the information of reality, and it's interactive. So
it's what scientists talk about also. The newest scientists telling this stuff.
Yeah.
Also.
This is the thing. This is the great thing now. There's more and more scientists are beginning to suss this at last. But it's interactive in the sense that it's affecting us as we decode it, and we're affecting it as we awaken and challenge its information that is in the field. So when I started to go down this road, again, it was in the 90s, turn of the millennium, is I wanted to know, okay, so what is the scientific explanation for how we create reality? And the five senses, all of them, the ears are a classic with sound waves, but all of them are picking up frequency information. They're turning that information into electrical form, which they communicate to the brain. And there's different parts of the brain that specialize in decoding the different senses. And then the brain puts together this information into a sense of reality. And because brains are basically designed the same, it's pretty much the same reality. But the difference is what we make of it. We may see the same environment, but what we make of it is our own unique spin. Anyway, so what is being created inside here is a holographic version, illusory physical version of what the information in that field. And if people say, "Oh, that's far-fetched," well, hold on a minute. That's what the computer's doing in front of you, because you've got the Wi-Fi field. The computer is decoding that into what we see on the screen. And where is it all going on? We can sit and observe the screen, but that whole decoding mechanism and the reality that comes from it is inside the computer. That's where it's happening. And this biological computer is decoding the matrix field, the simulation field, and putting it into a holographic decoded form that we experience, I'll grant you, it seems like that, we experience as being outside of ourselves, but it's actually all going on in here.
Yes, that's the biggest secret. Yeah. I think the biggest secret of the Illuminati, I've researched that when I read your stuff from 2010 was my awakening point. I think the biggest secret of the Illuminati is the force of creation. And that's the way how they also know about this, and they put it in a negative way to control this reality and this hologram. But there is one thing, David, I learned in the last 5 years, is that everything in our brain is controlled by these Anunnaki forces who are the producers from the matrix behind. They can log in there and they can do stuff. They can use frequency weapons. They can use words in your brain. but I didn't know that we have also intelligence in our heart. And we have this institution, Hartman Institution, and they have proven that your heart have this own brain who is working 1,600 times more complex than our brain in our head. So when you want to, when you can balance that, your heart brain and your brain in your head, these programs are not, cannot manipulate you a little bit, maybe, but not as far as you only taking from your brain. But that's controlled by these groups.
Yeah,
what they're talking about.
But there's another interesting thing which science has only recently understood, because before recently, it believed that once the brain was formed, that was it. It didn't change. Oh, but it does. And what changes it? They call it in science circles brain plasticity. And what this means is that the brain changes the way it fires and the way the neurons fire and the networks fire according to the information it receives. And what I would say is, beyond that, according to the frequencies that it receives, which are in the form of information. So one point that really opens up many channels of understanding is that every time we think and every time we have an emotional response, we are actually giving off a frequency. We're giving off frequencies, and the nature of the frequencies is dictated by the nature of the thought or the emotional response. So things like fear and anxiety and depression and regret and remorse and all these things are low, slow frequencies. Joy and love and all these other higher frequencies produce higher dimensional responses. And the brain is responding to this. If you this is what brain plasticity is as concluded, that if you keep getting the same information, what I would say is the same frequency band, then the brain will form networks and it will form decoding neuron networks to respond to that information. And that means you'll just go on believing the same thing, perceiving the same thing, because your brain is constantly decoding the same bloody thing, right?
Yes.
But if as we awaken and we tap into the higher frequencies of expanded awareness, the brain is now being faced with a different frequency of perception. And thus the neuron networks change to decode that. And suddenly you're perceiving things that are greatly more expanded than they were before.
Is that the key to change this reality together, collectively?
Well, I tell you another thing that I was reading recently is how science studies, I think this one was at Princeton in America, have found that we're all giving off, all brains are giving off what they call an extremely low frequency projection, if you like, which connects us to all others.
Just like clouds.
So
Clouds.
that there is, even on that level, a collective mind in action. And, this communication between the different minds, brains, is how the so-called paranormal works, and things that can't be explained. I'll give you an example. How many people have thought of someone that's just come into their mind out of nowhere, and the bloody
for
phone
sure.
rings, and it's them, and they haven't spoken to them for like maybe years, but what the hell?
Everyone can admit that.
Yeah.
For real.
Now, what is happening? It's real simple. It came into your mind. They came into your mind because they were about to ring you, and so they were thinking of you. And because we're communicating with each other all the time, and what some people are more sensitive to it than others, but what this control system wants to do is suppress that. Well, suppress that and use it. Suppress it in terms of expansion of awareness, but use it in the sense that if you can mass program people to basically believe in a certain type of reality and a certain what reality is, then through the collective mind, you are influencing basically almost everyone else to come to that same conclusion. This is the origin of the 100th monkey syndrome,
Yes,
where
yeah.
they've found that once a certain number of a species learn something new, suddenly the rest of the species, or vast numbers of them, can do the same spontaneously without being shown. Now, that's a kind of mystery. It's not a mystery at all. Species operate by definition on the same basic frequency. And so when something is learned by a few, that goes into the collective mind of the species and can be accessed by other members of that species that haven't been shown. They can spontaneously do it. Now, this tells you something that, and this is what this control system is terrified of, is that as more and more people awaken, we are influencing more and more people to awaken as well.
Yes, that's the key, for sure.
And so you have to control the information that people receive. This is what censorship's all about. So that you can program the perception of the population. Because once you lose control of the perception as people awaken to greater and greater understanding, it's over. You can't mass control people anymore. And that's what religion's about. That's what these belief systems I talked about earlier are about. They're about controlling perception. And so for me, first of all, we realize that whatever we know or think we do, there's always more to know. So your mind's always kind of open to other possibility. You realize that we are being systematically programmed in our perceptions by control of information. So then we ask, okay, so what's beyond the information they're telling us? Now your mind's opening even more. And crucial is awakening to our true self-identity, because the human body and the religious belief system work together, pick one or the other, to hold you in perceptual servitude and to hold you within the perceptions of the matrix, if you like. So if you say to people, who are you? They'd tell you their name, they'd tell you their place of birth, maybe where they live. They'd tell you their life story. They'd tell you their job. What they wouldn't say is, I'm all that is, has been, and ever can be. And the other person says, oh, thought I recognized you. So am I. Nice to meet you. We are all expressions of infinite awareness that have had our awareness focused, the attention focused on an illusion that we believe to be real. So you're given basically two basic choices. There are others, but they're minor compared. One is that we come from primordial soup, and when we are born, no one really knows where we were born. It's just the evolution and what's happened. And then when we die, the lights go out, and that's the end of it. Or we are subject to some judgmental God that we have to keep happy, and we are subordinate to, and we have to fear, God-fearing. And either way, we're down here. We're either basically an irrelevant aspect of evolution, or we are subject to God. The Old Testament God, for instance, who's an absolute bloodthirsty tyrant. And so that's the basically what we're being told. Now, another choice, smaller in number, well, maybe not smaller in number if you take the whole world into consideration and the population in consideration, is reincarnation. And reincarnation is you are evolving by coming into this world and having lots of deeply unpleasant experiences, and then you go out, and then you come back in and you have another experience, and you're learning lessons to evolve. I say all three of those things are absolute crap, garbage, nonsense. And
you wrote that in The Trap, I think, book The Trap.
Yeah, I've got really into looking at this, these other levels of the matrix, because it's not just the human level; it's the also the astral level, which is broken up itself into different levels of frequency, awareness, etc. And what I was looking at was, okay, I can see why consciousness might be tricked into coming into this reality once. But when you got out of it, when the body expires, ceases to deliver it to you, you would go, well, I ain't going back there. That was bloody horrible, because for most people, it's a real challenge. But by then, I come to the conclusion, and the evidence is overwhelming, actually look at it, that reincarnation was real. So my question was, why is anyone coming back? And then you look at all these near-death experience accounts and many other between life accounts, and people have these memories.
Stargate project with CIA, they did research on it.
Yeah, all that stuff. And so you realize that actually there's an authority that runs the human world, but there's also an authority, which is an expression of the same authority, that runs the astral world, the afterlife world, not the real afterlife world, which is infinite. I'm saying within this matrix. And it's amazing when you look at the different accounts, how similar they are, because most people follow authority because they think authority knows best. And if they don't think it knows best, then they're frightened of going against it because the consequences are going against it. So they basically follow authority anyway and do what it says. And then when you leave the body, you're faced with another authority. This is guardian angels or religious heroes, or what do you call it?
Sometimes archons also.
yeah, well,
In Nagamadi, you can read it. There's 7 archons who are watching after you dead. You have, if you can go on, or you have to go back. Also,
yeah, exactly. But they're all expressions in the end of this archons and these.
they are scanning what you believe in this life. And when you're Muslim, they show you a Prophet Muhammad. When you're Christian, they show you Jesus. When you are atheist, they show you something like that to put you in that belief system.
And the idea is to again control your perception, and control of perception means control of frequency. You know, if you believe that you are like in the human world, you are little me with no power, then that is a frequency, and that frequency interacts with the matrix and delivers to you an experience that relates to your perception of self, which is, I have no power, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so when you leave the body and you enter this other realm, they're also still trying to control your perception because they want to control your frequency, and therefore keep you in the matrix so you can go on what the Buddhists call the wheel of samsara, the reincarnation wheel.
And New Age, they telling this you have to go back for your karmic lessons, but these are still manipulations from these higher realms, or not?
Yeah, I mean the whole thing, the old karma thing. It's all deceit. And so you keep coming back, but if you are aware of all this, and you become aware of all this while you're in the human world, living in the human world, then when you leave the body, you are aware of what's coming. And the key is self-identity, because self-identity dictates your frequency. Perception, self-identity creates the frequency. So, like I say, mainstream science, every time we feel emotion, every time we think, the nature of the thought generates a frequency that relates to the nature of that thought. And together, the totality of all that is a field of information, of thought, of perception, of emotion that I will call the perceptual field. Now, the idea of this manipulation is to make sure that perceptual field doesn't go beyond the frequency walls of the matrix. And that's in the human world and in the afterlife.
Karmic wheel.
But you can breach all that. And self-identity is the absolute bottom line. You know, you talked earlier about the New Age. When I had the top of my head blow off in 1990, 91, the only people that would give me a platform of any kind, and it was often the smallest room at the end of the night, was the kind of New Age arena. But before I was in the smallest room at the end of the night, I would spend the day listening to other speakers when lots of crowds were there. And what I concluded was it was being made to seem so complicated, where you have to do this or you have to do that, you have to do the other, or this ritual, that ritual, go on a quest and all this stuff. Well, everyone to their own. But I don't think it's anything like that difficult. I think the whole thing comes down to self-identity. So if I think that I'm just a human, and at the end of my life, the lights go out and that's it, then I'm perceiving myself in incredibly limited terms. And that limitation is interacting with the field of possibility the matrix field and the wider field of infinite possibility, depending on what frequency you're accessing. And it's delivering to me a perception and a life through that perception that relates to my perception of self. And that's where so many people, vast majority of people, are at. But when you start to redefine your self-identity from I am a human, or I am a human subordinate to some God, to I am an expression of all that is, has been, and ever can be, having a brief experience as a human, I'm not human. None of us are human. We are having an experience called human. And the reason we call it human is the nature of the biological computer. That's where human comes from. And so if you self-identify with being human rather than having a human experience, consciousness of a human experience, then you are in a myopia of self-identity, and your frequency reflects that myopia, and your interaction with the field of possibility reflects that myopia. And then you start to redefine your self-identity from I am a human to I am all that is, has been, and ever can be, having a brief human experience. And as you expand your awareness, we call this awakening, but a true awakening. It's awakening not to, oh, it's a conspiracy involving the politics and all that stuff. No, you keep going, you keep going, you keep going. You're way beyond that, into the realms of who am I? Where am I? What's the nature of reality? And you eventually start to breach the walls of the matrix. And then you start tapping in to insight, knowledge, awareness that you don't get within the matrix field. And suddenly you see it. Oh my God, it's so obvious what's going on. The point being that when you leave the body, if you are in that same self-identity mode of I'm all that is, has been, and ever can be, you're out of here. There's no,
And that they are afraid of that.
you're not within the frequency. That sense of identity is not within generating the frequency within the matrix. So you're out, and you're back to infinity again. And the point is, this controlling, manipulating force is terrified that will happen on a vast scale, because it loses control. It loses the isolation control. And so what it's seeking to do, and this starts to explain what's happening now, what it's seeking to do is to not just control perception by censorship and by making sure that most people only have one version of reality, but through AI, artificial intelligence. This is why they are seeking to openly now connect artificial intelligence to the human brain. They're doing it. In so many ways that they're doing it, because they want to go beyond having to control information to control perception, to us getting our perceptions direct through AI. So AI becomes the human mind. That's where this is going. This is what this AI is all about. Everything else is detail, but this is the foundation reason for it. And, you know, one of the things that's not asked when people are talking about AI and its possible consequences is, what is AI? What is it? And okay, one level of it is algorithmic AI. Another level of it is learning from information received. So make no mistake about it, everything that is posted on the internet is fed into that level of AI. So AI becomes more knowledgeable about humans than humans ever have been. But there's another level of AI, and I say that's the level of AI that they want to connect the human brain to, and that's this consciousness that's driving the matrix. So as these archons and demonic entities are expressions of that overall consciousness, so humanity becomes an expression of that consciousness via AI, and that's what it's all about. And you see, they're creating a hive mind step by step before our very eyes through 5G towers and the real Rubicon crosser, which is 6G, and through low orbit satellites, ostensibly, it's to give everyone internet. No, it's creating the hive mind, mate, Mr. Musk.
Of course.
And you know that, mate, don't you? You know that, Mr. Musk and Mr. Bezos and all these people who are doing this. So they're creating a technologically generated electromagnetic field that is basically a technological sense of reality. And that is designed to become the hive mind, where waves of information come through the electromagnetic field, are picked up by the brain through connections, and become the human mind. So people basically become zombies. They become like computer terminals on someone else's internet. That's what's going on. And what they're trying to do all the time is to direct our attention into other things. Wars, conflicts, Donald Trump, who's like a drama queen. He's the real focuser of attention. While this AI agenda speeds on behind that smokescreen. So that's what they want to do. And then once that is in place, if we allow that, and we've got to get our arse in gear quick, then we will never ask questions anymore, like, who am I? Where am I? What is this place? Who controls the world? To what end?
They will be deeper in this AI and the computer. I think they're making a new matrix with this AI, sort of. We are now maybe using 5% of our brains, and when we in this AI, we maybe use 1% or something. So we are more deeply connected to this AI new matrix field, which is a replicate of the thing that you told before. We have organic connections with the organic cloud, and they are replicating this in AI control cloud, where people can connect with control of the AI systems, but not from the heart and the organic systems. I think that's a little bit, they're replicating things from the organic world constantly.
Yeah, exactly. And they are creating another level of the matrix, at least. And that's the idea, that they have, like never before, control of human perception, because AI is dictating what that is. And, in the roadmap, I quote a Chinese whistleblower who is describing some years ago now that the Chinese government were putting out electromagnetic fields that were being picked up by the target population, and it was making them perceive what the electromagnetic fields contained for them to perceive. Because how does the brain work? Electrically and electromagnetically. So if you can interfere through technological electromagnetic fields with that brain information processing, then you can get people to believe what you want them to believe. And so they're doing that in China, electromagnetic field to brain. But much better and much more powerful if you have nanotechnology, self-replicating nanotechnology, in the body that is acting as a receiver for that information, particularly in the brain. And that's what the COVID fake vaccines were all about. I've been in touch since they were introduced with a number of different people around the world who are focusing on this, scientists, doctors, etc. And they, you know, on the outside of the system, shall we say, and they are finding these self-replicating systems in the blood, and they're getting into the brain. And the idea is that they act as receiver transmitters, connecting us to AI and these information waves coming through the technologically generated electromagnetic field. And one of the things they're finding that were in these fake vaccines, because they weren't vaccines by previous criteria, is something called graphene oxide. And graphene oxide has two particular qualities. There's many, but two particular in relation to this. One is it's a superconductor of electricity. So if you get that in the brain, well, rewiring the brain is a gimme, really. And the other thing is that it amplifies electromagnetic fields. So if you have graphene in the body and you are in contact with an electromagnetic field, its impact on the body will be magnified by the graphene. And we are looking now at not just that fake vaccine source, but many other sources in which they're trying to get graphene into the body. You know, and you know, we're a long way, as we've talked here, from Trump or Kamala Harris or you know, Geert Wilders or, you know, Mark Rutte or Starmer or Farage.
Now we have Robot Jette.
Yeah, that's the theater. That's the play out level they want us to focus on. If you want to change anything,
but most people still focus on that though.
Yeah,
only.
they do.
So awake people are awake here in Holland for 90% talking only about this.
Yeah, exactly.
Still.
But if you expand your awareness and you open your sense of possibility to this greater perception of reality, then you start to get a much greater perspective, a much greater panorama on what this is all about. And the point is that if we can take control of our consciousness back, we can literally open our minds to consciousness, the true I, then we can override these perceptual programs that are going on.
Yes.
But if we don't, then these perceptual programs run the show.
So the key is to know who you self are and who the projection alter egos are who are put it in our reality since we are a child, a school system and everything, and to separate that from original self. And we are in our original self, then we have the power also collectively to change this hologram and in a good way, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the matrix, even at the matrix level, it's interactive. And we can change it if we come to expanded conclusions. We're putting those expanded conclusions into the field, which can be accessed by other people who spontaneously think, you know, I'm starting to think like this now. This is the whole 100th monkey syndrome. But so there's a constant battle where the controlling force wants to keep us asleep. It wants to keep us in a myopic state of sense of reality and sense of self. And we have the choice. Are we going to fall for that, or are we going to realize the true nature of who we are? Because once we do, everything starts to change.
I believe that for sure. David, before I forget, where can people buy your book, the last book and the other books? Is there a website special for your books?
They can go to davidicke.com. They can get the book, all the books there, and they'll get them within 24, 48 hours. And there's also a Dutch version that circulates in the Netherlands, and then other versions around the world as well in the different languages. But in English, it's davidicke.com. And there's also another platform called iconic.com, which is a platform that my sons put together some years ago now, and is a fantastic source of information across the whole spectrum. I've done many, many, many things for it myself, documentaries, etc., and I do shows every week for them as well, which it covers, yes, the political, but it covers this whole spectrum we've been talking about as well.
I've seen it. You have built something incredible over the years, David, and you have a fantastic team. Give my regards to Christiana and Beth. Great people. I spoke to them, really great. And I hope this is not the only one time that we speak to each other. I really hope that we can do in the future maybe a new interview with some other project, if you want, of course. And I really hope that we see about a couple of years that this hologram is changed in our way, and there is no more sad things and wars. But we will see, and we will see what happened. David.
Okay, mate. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and we'll talk again.
Yeah. Oh, that will be great. Please hold on, David, because this program have to load a little bit, a couple of minutes, if you want, if that's not a problem. And to everyone watching, thank you for being here. Make sure to subscribe to our channel, and who knows, there might be more English episode coming soon. And I hope, of course, with David Icke. Thanks for watching. Bye.